Heed, or is it pronounced head? I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure. Anybody who knows, leave a comment below. I'm talking about the audio company from Hungary. I've owned a unit of this company, the power amplifier Heed Thesis Gamma, for 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years actually. And that's the unit I want to talk about today. If I summarize the sound characteristics with one sentence, I would call it: the sound had a lot of body and it was a fantastic Pratt machine. What does that mean exactly? Let's find out. According to the Heed homepage, the Thesis Gamma is a high current power amplifier delivering 110 watts per channel. But the watts are not really important. I think any audiophile knows that. So high current, yes, I think you can hear that in the speakers. It delivers sound with a good body, and this is usually something I hear when I test and try power amplifiers or amplifiers who have a high current design. The technology, according to the Heed homepage with which this unit is built, is called the Transcap Technology, and it supposedly gives a tube-like sound, and the power amplifier is stable on down to the quite low impedance of 1.60. That's low. Respect for that. Going back to the claim that I read on the Heed homepage about this unit, that it's this Transcap technology gives it a tube-like sound. To be honest, I'm not even really sure what they mean with this. I've heard tube amplifiers. I have a tube amplifier here, and it sounds very different to the Heed unit. But I also heard different tube amplifiers that between them they sound very, very different. So I get the kind of holographic picture that tube amplifiers many times paint into the room when you listen to music. I'm not sure what to do with the claim of the Heed homepage, but maybe you know more about that. Leave a comment. I really enjoyed the size factor of this unit. 32 centimeters long, 22 centimeters wide, about 8.5 centimeters high, and it weighs approximately 11 kilograms. That means you don't have to worry about breaking your back when you actually lift it and carry it around or put it into your rack. And also the width of 22, it fits on almost any furniture. So that size factor for me was a very welcoming new thing if I compare it to the normal 40 times 40 and weighing, I don't know, 20, 25 and more kilograms.
If the blues come knocking, just you let him in. If the blues come knocking, be sure to let him in.
The build quality of the Heed Thesis Gamma is, in my opinion, superb. It's really nice. It feels like a very sturdy and solid unit. The metal is very thick, and I even had the feeling that you may actually can drop it and you just pick it up and you realize it doesn't even have a single scratch and it just works fine. Of course, I never tried that, and I do not recommend to anybody to drop any audio unit. By all means, please don't do that. But this is the way the build quality felt. So, superb. I liked it. I also liked very much the elegant way the writing Heed and the model name was lit up on the front panel once you connected the unit to power. I have not owned the matching preamplifier of Heed, so the way I listened to music was I used my Linn Selekt streamer directly connected to the power amplifier. The Linn has a volume control. At least I can set the streamer to be to have an active volume control, and with an RCA interconnect I connected it to the power amplifier, and the power amplifier was connected to the speakers. So this is the way I listened to music and also watched movies with the Heed Thesis Gamma as a power amplifier. Apart from the Linn Selekt streamer, that also served as a preamplifier in my setup when connected to the Heed Thesis Gamma power amplifier. I also used a streamer from an Italian company, Gold Node. I own the model DS10 Evo, which also comes with a volume control. Both of these units, the Linn and the Gold Node, played fantastically with the Heed power amplifier. I ended up using the Linn a little bit more than the Gold Node. But when I connected the Gold Node streamer to a different amplifier, Audio Analog, also an Italian brand, I have to say that combination, I preferred the Gold Node over the Linn. But all these units I'm mentioning here, they will be part of different reviews. They're worth having their own reviews. Also, when I connected my CD player into the system, I was either going analog out into one of the streamers or digitally out from the CD player. So I just used it as a CD transport into one of the streamers using the DAC of the streamers, and then the preamplification of the streamers going into the power amplifier. So if you want to get the magic out of the music, you need components that are matching, and there's no other way around. You just have to test and try. Trial and error. That's the way to go in audio. Having one single unit with a huge price tag very often is not the solution. It's a very sensitive little electrical unit, this Heed power amplifier. Let me tell you a story. I managed to create a ground loop in my system, unknowingly, of course. And it took me 2-3 days to actually find out that I did create a ground loop. I have 2 plugs back there in my system, and I just had the idea to plug all of the components that I had in either of the 2 plugs. And what happened then was, whenever I was listening to music and the refrigerator in the kitchen turned on, I heard a puck noise in my speakers. It took me 2-3 days to find out. I created a ground loop, and the heat actually transferred this turning on of the refrigerator into a noise into my speakers. I don't want to have puck noises in my speakers. I don't think anybody wants. The way that I established that I had created a ground loop where I heard this puck noise in my speakers every time the fridge was being turned on was with a power conditioner. I owned a big gigawatt power conditioner at the same time, and when I plugged all my units into the power conditioner, and the power conditioner was of course plugged only into one plug in the wall, there was no electrical plug noise in my speakers whenever the refrigerator was turned on. A second interesting story on why this electrical unit is a very sensitive electrical unit is its built-in power capacitors. You can turn off the power amplifier and it will continue playing music for roughly 30 seconds, maybe even up to 45 seconds, until slowly the music fades out and the power out of these capacitors is gone. Now this has taught me patience, and it has taught me that I have to turn on and off the whole system in a very specific order and manner. Turning on the system, the Heed power amplifier was the last unit that I turned on. Turning off the system, it was the other way around. The Heed power amplifier had to be the first one to be turned off, and then I had to wait. I had to wait until these lights, the writing Heed on the unit, was completely faded out, and only then I could turn off my CD player and other units that I had it connected to, mostly streamers. I used streamers. If I did not follow that order, let's say I turned off the Heed power amplifier and then I immediately turned off my streamer, again I heard a puck noise in my speakers. Very unpleasant. It hurts me to hear some funny noises coming out of the speakers that I don't want to hear. I listen to a huge variety of music. I listen to blues, I listen to jazz, I like female singers, I like electronic music, I like beats, I like percussions. There's a lot of different music that I listen to, and the way the Heed presented music was always enjoyable. It was always on the emotional side. It was definitely on the warmer side of neutral. It was never fatiguing, it was never tiring. I could sit back and listen to music for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, even have it running in the background. Very enjoyable. What the Heed is not, it is not the most transparent, and it's not the most detailed presentation of music, and certainly is not analytical. So if you're looking for detailed analytical amplifiers, that may not be the unit for you. If you're looking for a nice emotional presentation, enjoyable presentation of music, then Heed is very good. I apologize for the word enjoyable, basically, because if you like an analytical presentation, then this is enjoyable for you. If you like a warm presentation, then this is enjoyable for you. So enjoyable is the wrong word. I guess you know. Next topic I want to touch on is a topic that I may actually be crucified by all the audiophiles out there. Please don't. But in any system that I implement in my living room, it has to serve two purposes. I love listening to music. Of course I do. Otherwise I wouldn't spend money on all these units. But I also enjoy watching movies and series very, very much. And it's all happening in the same room. So any system that gets installed in my living room has to serve two purposes. It has to be good for watching movies. For me, the most important factor when it comes to watching movies or series in a sound system is the speech recognition. How well do I understand the dialogues? Because if that is very well presented, if I can recognize the speech, if I have no trouble at all understanding the dialogues, the conversations of any given movies, it is very enjoyable to watch them. If on the other side it is difficult to understand, the brain has to work, and then watching movies actually gets tiring. And who wants that? So the Heed Thesis Gamma did a pretty good job. I enjoyed it. Speech recognition was okay. I never had any complaints. I was watching the movies, I was watching my series. Also all the sound effects that you have with movies presented in a fantastic way. So yeah, I can tick this off. It served the second purpose that I need a sound system to do. How does the Heed Thesis Gamma compare to other audio components? I would like to compare it to an amplifier that has a very different design and build philosophy compared to the Heed. I've owned at the same time the Technics SU-G700. The Technics is an all digital amplifier. Only at the last step where you connect the speakers, the digital signal is actually converted into an analog output signal. So from a build philosophy, from a design philosophy, these two units are very, very different. And they also sounded different. The Technics sounded a little bit more delicate. It had a bit more details, and it had a bit more transparency compared to the Heed, and also the precision in which, for example, the contours of the musicians was drawn into the room. It was a little bit more precise. But the Heed had more drive in the rhythms. It had more overall drive in the music, and it had more body in the music and attack when it came to the precision in the rhythms. So both of these units were very enjoyable. I wouldn't call one of them better than the other. They were different. They sounded different. You pick and choose what you like. Speaker matching. Well, I guess that is one of the most important topics when it comes to audio. I used the Heed Thesis Gamma primarily to drive the Sonus Faber Olympica Nova 2 that you can see in the background here. And that was a pretty good match. That was okay. That was very enjoyable. Otherwise, I would not have kept the system for 2 years and every now and then plugged it in. I have also had, for a brief period of time, the Audioquest 100 speakers in my living room, and I paired them with the Heed Thesis Gamma, and that combination was not that convincing, at least to my ears here in my room. I clearly have to say the Audioquest speakers paired with a different amplifier sounded fantastic, very much so. But that is a very different review. But this made it clear to me that the Heed Thesis Gamma may be a little bit picky when it comes to speaker matching. It is also a little bit picky when it comes to cables. You can clearly hear the difference between different RCA interconnect cables. I have, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, I don't even know how many different interconnect cables here at hand from completely different brands, and I tried them all, and yeah, the difference was very audible. It was very obvious, and I found a match with which I really enjoyed listening to music. I would love to show you the Heed Thesis Gamma power amplifier now here like this, holding it in my hands, but I cannot because I no longer own it. A audiophile buddy of mine, or better, a friend of an audiophile buddy of mine, was very much interested in buying it. We came to an agreement and I sold it. It's very interesting being in this hobby. Maybe you are like me, you know, units come and go. You buy and sell units because you just enjoy to test out different units. And every once in a while, it happens that I sell off a unit, and just a few days or a few weeks later, I catch myself thinking, I would very much enjoy to still have it in my rack and plug it in right now and listen a little bit to it. The Heed is one of these units. So, Heed, I'm addressing this to you. I would be very much interested in testing out the power mono amplifiers together with the matching preamplifier. I want to finish this video and this review with the same 4-letter word or acronym that I started it with. PRAT. PRAT stands for pacing, rhythm, and timing. And I really want to emphasize the Heed Thesis Gamma does that very well. Timing of the rhythm is fantastic. That is a stronghold. Can I make the statement that you are going to like and enjoy this amplifier in your room with your taste of music? No, I cannot, honestly, because it is trial and error. You have to try it out yourself. But I can make the following statement. I believe it's worth a shot. Enjoy music.